And we see that the blossoms aren't actually there, and he's like left in tears, but also got to enjoy that moment, and that was captured for just a moment in his heart.
Yeah.
I thought that was beautiful. Like that's the one thing about this is like the sentimentality behind these like small dreams are so moving and so thoughtful filmmaking.
The orchard scene was really such a beautiful piece. Like I really enjoyed watching all of that because it was almost as if they were saying goodbye. We were getting almost as if we were watching the souls of the trees say goodbye to this young boy.
Welcome back.
Hey, Gretchen. Welcome back indeed.
It's been a minute. I don't know. They may not notice. You guys may not notice, but it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
We've been busy. You've been busy.
Yeah. March was a busy month. 2 different travels for filming, getting ready to do another one this month. So I'm trying to squeak out all the episodes that we have.
Yeah.
So there isn't any more of a gap, and then coming back and watching more and talking about more.
Yeah. We have some plans ahead for sure.
We do.
I mean, and this one,
plans?
what?
Are they good plans?
I mean, I think so. I know we're also amping up for festival season.
That's true.
I've been working a lot on, I have 3 film festivals that I judge for, and one of them is coming up next month. I don't know if this will come out by then. We'll see. I think maybe.
So that'll be Crypticon in May.
Crypticon, yeah. I'm one of the film programmers. This is my first year being a film programmer for them this year. Mm-hmm. And basically kind of in the same in titles, like where I judge films for the film festival. Mm-hmm. I feel like I could have done, I wish I had had more time. Next year I will be a little bit more prepared. I will probably write myself more of a schedule of timing to watch films because it overlapped with Portland Horror, which is coming up in June. So then I'm also in the middle of being a film selection judge for Portland Horror. And then that will start ramping into H.P. Lovecraft Film Festivals. So, and also writing our panels for Rose City Comic Con. We'll see how this goes. Whew. Festival season and con season upon us.
Yep, yeah, yes. Because I was at Emerald City Comic Con filming and did interviews and got to meet some amazing people.
Did.
Holy cow.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. And then got to go to C2E2 in Chicago and do some amazing interviews there as well. I'm off to New York City next week to do interviews again.
Man.
Yeah.
Busy.
Yeah, it's been busy and it's been really great. I'm super fortunate.
Yeah, we're really lucky. We're not complaining. We're incredibly lucky that we get to be part of these. I mean, honestly, you get these amazing gigs, but I'm
super
behind
lucky.
The scenes.
I'm very fortunate. Yeah.
All I'm doing is I'm going to talk about some kaiju movies, and I'm also on a panel talking about films in 1986, like horror films in 1986 at Crypticon. I'm part of a panel of a bunch of different film critics that I'm pretty flattered to be asked to be on this panel. So, yeah. Yeah.
Nice. And I just got introduced to a possible future film for us that I think, was that one in 1986, 1985,
1987.
87. Yeah, it was right around in that area. So I'm pretty excited about that. See. Yeah. Cool.
But this film that we're talking about today, not 1986. It's 1990. And honestly, we're going to do a double header.
It is.
I feel like these films get talked about a lot. These are film school discussion type style films. His films are masterful crafts. He's probably one of the most celebrated, the most discussed, one of the most honorific filmmakers, most prolific, maybe.
Yeah, definitely a prolific filmmaker with all of that other accolades attached.
Yeah, Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah.
And today we're going to our first of the 2. We're going to do 2 films this round of his. We're going to talk about Dreams first off, which was my pick, 1990 Dreams. The reason why I picked this film is because I felt like this was kind of at the end of his career. After he did Ran, he was kind of at the end of his career when he did that film. But this one was one of those. He had been writing this script for a minute. He had this idea of talking about his dreams throughout his childhood. And most directors would look at this, like a lot of people would look at this kind of thing and call this a vanity project because it's like a slightly biopic, but like in the scope of the sense that the main character is a fictional depiction of himself as the I in this, as it's following him in his dreamscape from his childhood into his adult years, into maturity. But less of a vanity project because it is it's not, he's not in it, and it's not like a bunch of friends, but he definitely reintroduces actors that we've seen in a lot of his other films, right?
Oh,
like
definitely.
A lot of other films. And Friends help fund this. I mean, this is done with like Lucasfilms helps with this.
Right.
I mean, and all of these directors that were inspired by his work, like Lucas is inspired by Hidden Fortress, right? That's what Star Wars comes from. We have, Scorsese plays a character in this, which we'll get into later. And then we have Francis Ford Coppola helps out with this and helps with some direction and whatnot and some ideas and money. And everybody helps out with this project, making this well known and like making this a pretty successful, like Kansas was a well received like film. But Dreams is a passion project as well as, I mean, I think of all it is such a departure from his other work. It's a kind of a fantasy story. It's has a little bit of themes of like a little bit of scary. Has those ethereal moments of like what a waking dream feels like. It has a little bit of tokusatsu to it. It has so many elements that is what makes this so special to me and why I picked it for our roundup of that.
Yeah, this was an amazing film. I hadn't seen this one before.
Which I was so glad to hear.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people have seen this one. Or, I mean, it's like kind of the either or, right? Like you've seen all of his samurai work, or you've seen all of his like work like Hilo and his like Ikiru and like his more like emotional films. I mean, there were Kurosawa, he struggled as a filmmaker. Like at the beginning, he was forced by the Japanese government to create propaganda films for World War II, and he was very anti-war. I mean, watching like what this war had brought about with America bombing Japan, like this, he was everything he created afterwards that wasn't sanctioned by the Japanese government. He was like very like heavy-handedly anti-war with it. And we'll again get into that stuff later also, because there's vignettes of this movie that are that show this sentiment very strongly, especially towards like the middle of it. I mean, also with Akira Kurosawa, he suffered from depression, right? I think that like this was kind of his way of like a little bit of like exercising some of those demons and really like putting himself out there. Yeah. This is a very special movie, so I'm really glad you liked it.
Yeah. It's really great. It's visually stunning. Everything that he does is visually stunning.
Absolutely.
And he always tells compelling stories. And he does have his films that are big departures from anything that are the samurai films that talk about culture and structure and what was happening, taking modern day problems and not inserting them into feudal Japan, but obviously commenting on the fact that the same struggles that keep happening generation after generation, century after century, constantly war, famine, pestilence, people ruling, people having revenge, people struggling, people fighting, people coming to terms with certain things. Like he always keeps meeting those stories in cinema. And then he takes some departures. Rhapsody in Blue was one, which came after Dreams. And there's a couple. I'm one of those folks. I haven't seen every single Kurosawa film,
Same.
but I've seen many.
Yeah.
So there are more. Having watched this one, and then for our next episode with that film, when we tell everyone what that one is, it just made me realize, because I've always found him to be one of the greatest film directors of all time.
100%.
And so to finally come back to this and be able to watch these two movies and go, I gotta go and finish out the entire catalog of everything that is Kurosawa, because he explores a lot. Even if you want to say that his settings were similar, he explores a lot of life, and he contemplates a lot of existence and a lot of self-worth.
Yeah, I mean, I think that especially in this particular film, each vignette, each dream is a aspect of that. Like, to get into it, like the first dream is of him as a child. It's called the Sunshine Through the Rain. He is he explores like childhood curiosity, as well as like the darkness of childhood, like the insecurity of childhood, where you hope that your parents will always accept you, and then but what happens is that there's this rainstorm that happens, and it's kind of a sunny day, and a sudden rain shower hits, and he's going out to play, and his mother's like, don't go out on days like this. This is when foxes have their weddings, and they don't like it when people see their weddings. And what does he do? Of course, he goes out to see the wedding.
Yep.
Which is stunning. I mean, this is a beginning of like sets the stage for this. When you see this, it has this eeriness to it. They are doing a slow. Have you ever seen Japanese wedding processions? I've had the luck of seeing a few of them at temples. Like I saw one at the Meiji Shrine in like 2017. There was a procession happening, but they're slow. Like there are a few steps. There's a drum beat to them. It's a slow progression, and he sits and watches. But the foxes do something that they're on alert, and they check as they are doing their procession, and they see him. So he gets home, and his mother informs him that he's no longer allowed to come in the house because he has been given I forgot what they're called. It's the shorter sword of the samurai, like are the swords that you're wearing.
Some form of a dagger.
It's the dagger, but it's usually used for like seppuku is the term, right? You're gutting yourself, so the foxes had delivered this for him to kill himself because he had seen their wedding, and so she had informed them that he had to go and ask for forgiveness, beg for forgiveness, because no son of hers would be allowed to be in the house with this kind of like thing carrying this upon him.
Yeah.
Right? Like, and terrifying. That's terrifying. So he's carrying those tears and into the forest, and comes across a lovely glade of flowers. Wow. Yeah, it's a terrifying little tale, and not much comes of it. That's what I kind of love about this, is like there's some of these stories have a finality, and some of them have like a conclusion, but some of them do not. And I think that's kind of like how our dreams in general are, right? Sometimes they have a complete narrative, and we're like, wow, it makes sense from the beginning. There's a structure to it. But then sometimes your dreams are just like very open-ended, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say that before David Lynch, there was Kurosawa's dreams. to a certain degree. I mean,
Well, this is 1990, so David Lynch was doing stuff before then.
Yeah, Eraserhead was just a little bit was prior to this, as well as Dune and Elephant Man. But when it comes into being Twin Peaks, this is just prior to Twin Peaks, which I think was 92.
Yeah,
91?
There's also this film called, it's a Japanese film called A Night of Dreams or something like that. It's a very creepy story about, it's almost like the retelling of the Journey to the West story, almost. But I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's prior to this, and that story people say this was somewhat influential, like in this as well. Like, it has this kind of feel to it, this vignette. But I think it came out maybe in 1989, like before this film. So it has that same kind of like, not that it's like beat for beat or anything like that. It's just has this kind of dreamy, creepy, but also like interesting. And Quite On came out 1960 or 69, 60, 67, something like that.
Yeah, it's
and that's a vignette storytelling.
And not so much in the I wasn't so much commenting on the vignette style, but David Lynch was becoming very popular, and I'd said, well, before Lynch, that's not really fair. And there are lots of people that were exploring things, and I think it's really more about exploring storytelling in very non-traditional ways. You're not telling linear stories with particular arcs. Things very much there's a lot of representation. There's a lot of meaning for how this is coming about for the filmmaker, and it isn't always necessarily about it directly relating to everybody. It's for the people who, and I think anybody who watches these things can also then make their own connections, and it can very much mean something for them. So there is this really beautiful, esoteric, emotional dreamscape that is coming out of him. And the most structure that it has is the fact that it is broken into 8 pieces.
And I love how he structures this by each vignette is segmented with and I had another dream.
And I had another dream.
Or I had a lovely dream. And like, those are the way these are broken up, just, it feels like the way that you dream, right? Like, I mean, this sunshine through the rain has that, like, those moments of childhood insecurity, those scary moments of kiddom, those things that we find fearful as children, that may not necessarily be real or whatever, that we perceive as scary. Like, I think I remember thinking that fairies were real as a little kid, and being told like that if you didn't leave out things for fairies, that they would like hurt you or like injure you or something like that. I had a neighbor that was really into like new agey stuff, but I remember thinking like that was kind of a darkness to it, and this has that same kind of vibe or temperature to me as a kid. But then it kind of rolls into the next story, because he still is like a kid in this, and it goes into the second story, which is the peach orchard, and it's Hinamatsuri, which is a Japanese holiday called Girls' Day or Princess Day, and it's traditionally done as a setup where you have a bunch of what's called Hinamatsuri dolls, and like they're set up in a structure of like a noble household, like the king or the emperor and empress, and then their court all down to the bottom, like the musicians and whatnot, and they are like. You get this set as a gift when you have a little girl, and you bring it out every time this year. And generally the idea is that you get served like, sweets and tea, and everyone dresses up in their nice yukata, and the brother makes too many plates, and he's like, wait, I thought there were 6 of you. And she's like, no. And what you see kind of off in the distance in the room is like the way the room is, like the way the shot's set up is that there's a beautiful vase that has a peach blossoms coming out of the vase. and that's kind of a ikebana, which is like the Japanese floral arrangement kind of thing. Sorry if I throw too many Japanese words, and also if I mispronounce things, my apologies. I have not been practicing my Japanese in a minute, and so yes, I have a few language things that I remember from Japanese culture, but not necessarily that I'm an expert in any way. But yes, so ikebana floral arrangements. It's kind of a viewing thing. So you're supposed to have like a beautiful arrangement generally for Hinamatsuri. You have one up in the corner. And they had a peach one, and we kind of find out that this is like embodied by a spirit, this peach girl that leads our main Akira Kurosawa's character into the garden. And we discover that the peach blossoms have all been torn down and destroyed, or all the trees, in the orchard have been destroyed to make way for different things they're doing, different plants. Is that what you're talking about? Or they had sold the orchard or whatnot for whatever reason. And the boy was so saddened by it. And the spirits of the peach blossoms, or the peach trees themselves, were moved by his despair that they did a dance called the Iten Raku, and it's like a ceremonial dance, and they kind of the meaning of that, meaning that it's like the music's kind of like brought from heaven, like that they were doing like a spiritual rebirth dance. And so they brought back the blossoms momentarily so that he could experience this like rebirth of this beautiful orchard for a moment in time. And then, like childhood, it's fleeting. And we see that the blossoms aren't actually there, and he's like left in tears, but also got to enjoy that moment, and that was captured for just a moment in his heart. Yeah, I thought that was beautiful. Like that's the one thing about this is like the sentimentality behind these like small dreams are so moving and so thoughtful filmmaking. And wow, just how stunning that moment was. And what did you think of that?
Yeah. The orchard scene was really such a beautiful piece. Like I really enjoyed watching all of that because it was almost as if they were saying goodbye. We were getting almost as if we were watching the souls of the trees say goodbye to this young boy. That's the way I took it when I watched it. It was really cool just in their colors and in their placement, especially how the scene ends, because the scene ends with they're all gone and it's just stumps. Yeah. And so it's almost like the song they paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Like I felt like I was watching a deeper understanding for that sentiment of the beauty and the nature and the interconnectedness, but somehow the idea of progress comes along, it gets removed, and whatever was left of the spirit of the environment of that place wanted to say goodbye to the boy. Yeah. I agree. And then it left.
Well, and like I was saying, like it feels like that's how childhood is, right? That's a
good point about goodbye to childhood.
It's such a fleeting moment of life, and but also a foundation for who we become as adults, and getting to have those beautiful moments to have to reflect on. It's like at least he got to have that rebirth of beauty before he gets to experience adulthood.
Right. Because of the 8, this is the second vignette. This is the last one with the kid, isn't it? I think the next one moves on to being an adult. So
he's
that's
like a teenager.
Is that a teenager one?
But he's like the adult. It's the adult actor, but he's supposed to be like, that's supposed to be like a mid-age.
Which was the third one?
This is the Blizzard.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, and I guess, is that not adulthood?
Yeah, teenagehood is adulthood, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, is he a teenager in that one? I thought he
I
was
think
very
this
much
is
an adult.
the intention. We're not supposed to. That's why it's supposed to be so gilded, or supposed to be so covered. Is that we're not supposed to see? It's supposed to be that struggle, but yeah.
Well, definitely it does, and so I hadn't actually made that connection prior to you saying goodbye to their childhood, because now that when we transitioned into this other vignette of these men making their way through a blizzard in a mountain pass somewhere, and it's all just snow and freezing and everything's terrible. I didn't look at that before until just now that, oh my goodness, that's
your teenage years.
That is the blizzard of the teenage years where you're just lost in all of this stuff and your hormones and your emotions and what does it mean to be a man and a person? Where are you going? You're supposed to have these ideas, but you have no clue. You're supposed to function, but you don't. You can go to war. You can't drink. You can vote. All of these things are starting to happen to you.
They're ascending a mountain.
Right.
So, I mean, it's...
that they can't see.
Right. They're caught in a storm. They're ascending a mountain that they can't see.
Yeah.
And they're tempted.
Yep.
And they're tempted, which, funny enough, the actress that plays this character, plays the Yuki Onna, plays a character in another movie we're going to be talking about later.
Yeah, there's a bunch of connections with this too, because in the next one that we watch also, there's references to foxes, especially as the film gets on farther. And so in this one, and myself not knowing Japanese culture and seeing how they look at the fox, they're trickster and sort of a vengeful being. And so I would love to be able to explore that more and know more about, and I don't know if that's kind of carried into modern day or not, but it seems to definitely be something of old. Yeah, it's amazing. So it's interesting to see those things tie into various stories across Kurosawa's work.
Yeah. I mean, the blizzard, one of the things I remember reading about this is that he, the reason why he even wrote that piece is he had this was kind of during a time of his life where he was really struggling with his depression and whatnot, and had almost exited himself from this planet.
Really? Yeah. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And
I can't imagine Kurosawa having depression. In my head, this is the one of the absolute greatest filmmakers of all time who should have just
in his country.
And it's astounding.
Right? Isn't that a shame?
Yeah.
But they say the artist's struggle is true. I mean, true art is born of pain and whatnot, I guess. That's what they say. But
or the idea that there are lots of people.
Everybody
I think
has
painters
depression.
are known well, that's for sure. Especially,
Ashiro Hondo, they'll help him get out of it.
Oh,
that was his best friend.
Who directed one of the vignettes, I believe.
Right? No, actually, I found out that was a misnomer.
Oh, really?
After all this research I did, I was like, oh, I've been lied to all these years.
Well, he's listed as one of the directors on IMDb.
He's listed as a assistant, yeah.
He's interesting.
He was a technical advisor.
He was the director of emotional stability.
Yes, yes. But yeah, no, the blizzard is there's a Yuki Onna that kind of appears in this, and she's like a ghost, like a snow woman, and she trying to suppress our character, right?
Yeah.
So sing him into sleep and like
a siren,
right? Exactly.
Very much. We were watching this, going, "Oh, this is very much like the Odyssey."
But if you think about the metaphor of teenage years, you're like, "All right, so this is those moments of temptation and not only but knowing that he had depression, this being that subduing, letting yourself go, but also as a teenager letting yourself go to temptation and whatnot and things like that. These are I love this is very applicable to many things, right? That's one thing about this film is you can place this on many different levels. I feel like you can apply it to many different metaphors, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that is the beauty of someone who really attempts to take a big swing with their filmmaking. This is, I've talked about kind of this before with like movies that take a big swing, and it doesn't mean that they hit it out of the park. But I guess that idea of being experimental, of being an artist, of trying to do something different. And this is really, I very specifically didn't do research into the breakdown of each one of the vignettes as to what they meant to Kurosawa.
Oh no, I didn't either. I looked at kind of like what I looked up for each one of the vignettes was what the name of it was, and then I kind of did a I mainly just kind of read up like about what was happening at the time when this was being written, and then there was only a few that I had questions about, like the one that had like Martin Scorsese and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Which we'll get to.
Well, and I didn't do it because I didn't want to. I'm right now. There might come a time later with this film, but I didn't want to know for him. This is exactly what this thing meant for me, and that's why I did this. And I really wanted this film to be able to sit with me and how I felt about it and what any of it could represent to me, and what all of these connections, even just having this moment right here of connecting that next vignette, the third one, with being a teenager. I didn't make that connection before. And that moment I would not have given up to have read ahead and tried to find a solution to that, or find out what Kurosawa meant for this. That's the best part of this exploration, is still exploring this film in discussion.
And I didn't even know that he even meant for it to be, I don't think it was even specifically heavy-handed enough to say that it was for like being a teenager. I think it was meant that it was like that this is the next level, like, because all I know about this is that this is a young man from a childhood to an adulthood. And so like looking at each aspect of our lives, like this felt like specifically to teenage years, because we are going uphill at this point in our lives when we get to our teenage years. This was never written anywhere else, but this was my interpretation.
I think that's a great interpretation, and I love it.
Thanks.
I think it's fantastic, and it didn't occur to me that way.
I just assumed, and what I did read, that he was like, they gilded his look a little bit so that there wasn't anything specific about it, any age of anyone other than the childhood, and that's it. Like there was nothing. That's why there's no specific narrative. There's no narrative because it is dreams. I mean, they could be taken out of whatever time, but like we are putting our own pattern recognition into it.
Right. Well, and so I think that leads to something that's a really good comment here. There's very little dialogue in this film.
Right.
It is almost all visuals.
Right.
And that's huge to go through this film and watch it, because I was compelled the whole time with very little dialogue.
I feel like the most dialogue is in the last vignette. And the last 2 or 3 vignettes. The last 2 vignettes were the last 3, because that's where. But if you think about it, like we're, as children, we're not heard. We're expected to be seen and not heard. And then as teenagers, we're still trying to find our voice. And like, remember how like that was shot, like there was no sound except for her singing, and then the quiet of that storm until it was thunderous.
Right.
But like we could only hear the sounds of our internal breathing. And then, I mean, this is just me like drawing my own meta from it. And
that's true. Some of the where we find most of the dialogue, if I remember right, is about when we get to Waterwheel Village.
Yeah, or Mount Fuji in red, because remember
Mount Fuji in red. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, the discourse between the people there, but like, and the conversation he has with Van Gogh too.
Oh, that was so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to that one. I don't remember what number of vignette that was, but man,
I wrote
that
down
was,
the number. That was one thing I was like, I gotta keep this track.
yeah. It's it's so great. Well, so when we get out of being teenagers and they become adults, what was the fourth vignette?
The tunnel. He
Oh,
joined the military.
man,
The
we gotta talk
military.
about the tunnel.
I was a little bit worried at
Wow.
first because I had forgotten about the dog, the anti-tank dog.
Uh-huh.
That was
Is that what he is an anti-tank dog?
yeah.
I had no idea that was a thing. Damn. Holy shit.
I know.
That kind of fucks with me a bit.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's why I mean, if you think about it, like, I mean, let's think about like Akira Kurosawa's like anti-war sentiment to begin with, right? And his probable guilt over having to make those kinds of
propaganda films when he didn't want to support it anyway.
I don't think he was in the war specifically, but I do. I mean, but I think he probably feels deeply responsible for what he had to do for his government. I didn't research whether or not he was in the military or not, but this this was such a eerie moment. Like you can tell there's a lot of guilt and survivor's guilt kind of aspects to it.
Absolutely.
I mean, because we have like the ghost coming out of the tunnel and like,
Yeah.
the first ghost being that dog. You know what it reminded me of? Do you remember? Have you ever seen the movie Flatliners?
I saw the original
That's what I'm
Flatliners.
about.
It has been a while, but yes, I have.
Do you remember the dog in Flatliners?
I
Like,
don't.
okay, dang.
Dang it, we're gonna have to watch more movies.
There's just there's a dog that was injured in the movie, like in the movie Flatliners, and it is part of the haunting dream that comes back to Kiefer Sutherland's
Okay.
character. That for me, this kind of scene reminded me of, like with the anti-tank dog.
Yeah. Well, and that's so with this one, so it's interesting. So there's a tunnel. Our character I approaches it. That's when we first see the dog, and the dog is grumbling and barking, but it's not normal barking. But then he enters that tunnel, comes out the other side. That whole walking through the tunnel, I had no idea where that vignette was going to go. So when we really got into it, when he gets to the other side of the tunnel, and I'm assuming that I take that as his passage through the tunnel is his passage through the time of the war. He's just in this tunnel. There's nowhere to go. He can only go straight ahead. Yeah, there's a little bit of light up ahead, but who knows if that light's good or bad for anybody. He's there. There's no turns. There's no anything. You can only go through. So I guess similar to him being a propaganda filmmaker in World War II, he just had to go through and get to the other side. But then, like you said, then we start to meet the ghosts. We meet one ghost at the end, and it's like that ghost doesn't even know that they're a ghost at first.
I feel like they don't realize they're dead.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's why because he's like their commander, I think.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting aspect of this, knowing that he was a propaganda filmmaker. But again, like you, I didn't research. I don't know if he was a soldier or if he was ever fighting anywhere. So he probably wasn't commanding people, but he may have been out there filming people. I've never seen any of his propaganda films. So I don't know if he was out there and like embedded with them, filmed some stuff, and then got to know some people, and then they died. Because I don't think he would have been in command of anybody or been telling anyone what to do as the propaganda filmmaker. He would have been very isolated from that. So, but it feels like the character even though that's, I mean, I took it mostly as Kurosawa or us. It's you, it's whoever. That didn't necessarily have to be Kurosawa at that time. That could have represented someone he knew or a friend or even maybe the country of Japan. Maybe it represented that and confronting these ghosts, the death of your neighbor, your friend, whoever, the people that you sent off, but they all died and you didn't.
Apparently he disowned that those propaganda films as far as like.
I believe so.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, that it was, but like the tunnel, he had to go through. That's what he had to do. I don't know enough about the culture and the time to know what would happen if you were. I don't know that there's any such thing as a conscientious objector in World War II if you were in the Japanese country at all. In the culture, I don't know what would have happened.
I mean, we talked about this before when we did -1. Like, I mean, it's Japan is, that's the hard thing about Japanese culture is like, the nail that sticks out gets hammered down, and you were expected total nationality. But what comes of that, though, I feel like is what's cool about the next segment, though, right? Like, or unless you want to keep talking about war.
This is great.
Like leading into the next piece is like, I feel like that is that moment of like, he's past the war and he's like trying to kind of reconnect with his art, right? Like, so he has a beautiful dream.
Yeah.
And his beautiful dream is crows. And that piece is, that vignette is so lovely. So lovely. It is, I think he walks into the painting, Van Gogh's like wheat fields of crows, or crows and wheat field, or something like that. And it is back in so this is like the whole tokusatsu part of the tokusatsu aspects of this is that I did actually look up this part of it, because I was like, I'm curious as to how this was shot. It was like a blue screen that they had framed out where the actor was going to walk and interact, and they had framed the film to where he was walking through a Van Gogh paintings, and it was just like delightful.
It was really well done. So it was really well shot.
I mean, in 1990,
but it's so cool. Yeah,
this was like, I mean, we were lucky that we didn't have cardboard cutouts of Van Gogh's art, honestly.
Right.
Because I mean, did you go to the Van Gogh exhibit like when it came here? That was like that immersive exhibit. It was beautiful, right? I went, loved it. It was gorgeous. Van Gogh, one of my favorite Van Gogh paintings is the skeleton smoking the cigarette. One of my favorites.
Yep.
Which I don't think it gets enough love.
I'd never seen it before. You showed it to me during the film.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It was a spooky lady. This is such a beautiful moment. To me, it felt like he's like reconnecting with art, like and it also feels like those dreams that you have where you're like, wow, what was that about? When you have those conversations with like strangers, or you meet somebody famous in your dream and you're like, why did I even, like, those moments? That's what this dream kind of felt like, because he meets Van Gogh and he has a conversation with Van Gogh, and Van Gogh is played by Martin Scorsese, which is so wonderful and so adorable. I adore Martin Scorsese. I love listening to him talk. He has the cutest old man in New York voice. I love hearing Martin Scorsese talk about film, talk about anything, honestly. And like his character of him, his version of Van Gogh, him talking about Van Gogh, talking as Van Gogh, and talking about taking in the beauty that is around us and taking in art, and like loving the loving, what was he talking about? Like he says something to the effect of like, I feel this in my soul. I was like, I completely relate to this, because when I was a kid, music was something very important to me and my father. Like, and so my father would say, like, music is intrinsically tied to our heartbeat. It's part of our, like, every heartbeat that we have is a rhythm. And so music is tied to that. And our musical souls are tied to our heartbeat. So every bit of our heart is of music, is a note of music. So I felt that so deeply when I was watching this, and like talking about like the beauty of like art, and like the taking in the scenery around us, and that loving that. And embracing that and feeling that and having to create from that, because I feel like that myself. Like when I have to sing, I feel like I've got to sing like to express that and to have that come out of me.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, there was something that Van Gogh, Martin Scorsese, says in there. It really stuck with me. Of all the things that I saw and heard in this film, this stuck with me more than anything else. I even talked about it after the fact to someone, and it was that he kept trying to do self-portraits of himself over and over and over again. He kept trying, and he just couldn't get his ear right, so he cut it off. And I just thought, oh my goodness, that felt like such a heavy metaphor for life and the pressure we put on ourselves and trying to get things right or perfect or correct, or things that are in our way. And it's like, my goodness, instead of him being satisfied with the ear not being perfect or being right or working on it longer to try to get it, he just cut it out. He just cut his ear off because he couldn't get it right. And man, I had to really go back and start thinking about, am I doing that right now in my life? Or have I done that? When have I decided that that's what I was going to do in my life? I'm not getting this ear right, so I'm just cutting it off. And it was really powerful to me. I loved that moment. And like you, I love Scorsese. He's one of my top 3 directors of all time. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You know what he said about this?
What's that?
He was in the middle of shooting Goodfellas, and he was like, he couldn't say no.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, he stepped away from working on Goodfellas to do this because he was like, I can't say no to Akira Kurosawa.
Yeah. And it was great because when they've got him there, he's got his head bandaged, like the ear removal, but he had a goatee and a mustache, and it was the color all changer. It might have been a full beard. He had the wrappings on him, and there's like a sun visor on him too, because they're standing in the sun.
Painting to make him look like they had like the temperate pieces that make him look like the painting.
Yes,
that's so famous.
Yes, absolutely.
So
it was
amazing.
So good
and thoughtful.
And it was very thoughtful, and it was amazing because while he was speaking and while we're watching him, and he's painting too while they're out there when I interacts with him. And it was really weird because I saw Van Gogh, even though I heard Scorsese. And it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so great.
I love Scorsese.
Probably my favorite vignette of the bunch.
Yeah, I think I have to say I really love the last vignette, and I also love this one. Mm-hmm. The fox wedding is fun just because it's so creepy, and it's just such a kind of a creepy, like spooky. Reminds me of those the what's it called, like the Kwaidan stories in general, like the idea of like the Night of 1,000 Stories, like those when the candles burn out or whatever, like that feels like one of those kind of tales. Yeah. So it's those are pretty common, but like I love Japanese folklore a lot. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of spooky and fun. But I think this one is one of my top of all the vignettes, but the last one is one of my favorites as well. It's very sweet.
So when it's interesting tying these into stages of life. This one is obviously his time during post World War II and becoming. This is really him becoming a filmmaker too after World War II, and this is all
like really finding refinding his art.
Yeah.
And like, that, you know, as I'm not an artist, so I don't really. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a very.
Why? You're an artist.
Oh, well, come on. I mean, like I'm a singer,
You're a singer.
but like I am not exceptionally creative. Like I would say like it's hard to draw like that kind of stuff from. I recognize
you're an artist.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
But like trying to find inspiration and trying to re-find and rekindle inspiration after tragedy is always difficult for anybody, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what Van Gogh speaks of in general, like for most people and for most artists, and what his legacy and his inspiration speaks of, right?
Yeah. Well, and so I still am grappling with this idea of this person that I've considered a master to be going through a fit of depression and trying to, I guess, find their voice or reconcile some of their own demons, or even just exploring their own life and their own ups and downs through all of this. And just in you saying that, I immediately, you're going to remember the name better than I do, but I'm remembering the director that was kidnapped to North Korea and forced to make the propaganda films that made that one really good kaiju film that a bunch of us all watched. Was it Yongari? I think that might have been Yongari, but yeah, they kidnapped him and took him to North Korea.
Was he a Korean filmmaker?
I thought wasn't he a Japanese filmmaker that was kidnapped to North Korea, or was he a South Korean filmmaker?
Gosh. Oh man, why is it not coming to me?
We all watched that together, and there was a book that came out about all of that, but the perseverance for someone's art, and I'm taking this personally, and I'm internalizing a lot of this stuff, because a lot of the things that I do are about trying to figure out how to cash checks and continue to survive. And, you know, the next time I do something that's for a shoe company or a tech company, I've been really fortunate in the jobs I've been doing lately where I've been filming and doing interviews with amazing people. But I'm also doing these to like cash checks, and they're great opportunities, but it's not my passion. I didn't get into this. And so now I have to figure out how, because I've been having an existential crisis with all of this stuff. I want to be making my dreams or my ideas, and I want to explore stories. And sometimes I don't even know what to even do. Like, I just feel like I'm copying other people's stuff, or I'm just mimicking all of the great things that I saw come before me. And I don't even know if I have a voice in any of this stuff, but
don't you think that's what he's saying in this as well?
Then I don't get how he is, but I don't understand how that could be. It's like, nah, Guillermo del Toro doesn't have times where he's depressed and really questioning his stuff.
He does.
There's no way that Ava DuVernay is ever questioning why she's doing this stuff. And I have to remember, oh yeah, they can and they do, because they are human.
I mean, and also Guillermo del Toro is making Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a remake of a remake of a remake of a remake.
Has that one been made before?
A few times. Only a few times. Only like 20 times.
Somehow he got that taken away from the Blumhouse remake of all of the Universal monsters, with Mummy coming out and Wolfman and
oh boy.
Yeah. Creature from the Black Lagoon, I hear, is in the works.
Oh boy. That's going to make some
and Invisible Man. I remember there was Invisible Man a couple of years ago too. So anyway, not to derail us.
I liked the Invisible Man remake. I just recently saw it
too.
I just recently saw it.
I really enjoyed that one too. And I will stop there.
Okay. So our next vignette is Mount Fuji in red.
Yeah, this was quite the one.
So if we're going to talk about, again, this is not in any canonical order, right? So again, the intention was never specifically to be the stages of life, but it just kind of flows that way. Like he says that many times he's said this multiple times. I read many interviews about his ideas of this movie Dreams. And many times he says this is part of it is my childhood, and then the end of it is my adult years. And so there is those linears, right? And then you feel like things hit beats that are proper for the era of our existence. But this specifically doesn't feel like any era. This to me feels like a horror story. Mm-hmm. This is our universal fear of apocalypse. But maybe if we're gonna read, if we're gonna put it, if we're gonna apply this philosophically to like an era of our lives, when we're adults, right? We are in charge of, maybe we're in charge of our children or our pets or whatever, or we have responsibilities. And so apocalypse is a very fearful thing to embrace. And it is the fear of losing everything that we've worked for, right? Like it's fear of dying, fear of everyone around us, losing everyone around us. So that's, I feel like, what we're kind of examining here, because we see people kind of being like assholes, like selfish.
Oh yeah.
Like when they're, and that's not very, very Japanese in a lot of ways in this, but also very Japanese in a lot of ways too.
Okay.
Like if you're like listening to the discourse that the neighbors are having, and then like the mother's like, but the wife of my children. So you're seeing all these moments of like, so if you think about it, this has those elements of like a young parent fear, those fears of the end of the world, and like your children dying or your pets dying or your family members dying is world ending in many ways. Like even like losing your parents as an adult is world ending, because you're ending, that's the end of your childhood forever. Forever. You've lost your parents.
Yeah. Well, I really liked the aspect of the businessman that was in there.
Yeah.
So, because I is in this, like everything's falling apart, that we end up having this massive cataclysmic event that happens, and then we end up kind of in it sort of looks like a nuclear hellscape, or the hellscape of what happens after some kind of a massive environmental catastrophe. And we do see bodies kind of strung all over the place, but we're left with and then there's the woman with her child, but we've got that businessman. And the businessman is talking about all of this. Well, we knew this was going to be happening, and this, like, he's talking about all the buildup to this, and what fools, and like we all knew, and we knew things were all of a problem. And I asked him something, and I forget specifically what he says, but then the guy goes, "Oh no, I was one of the people that designed this. I knew this was coming." And it felt
that's very Japanese.
Well, but it also felt just very corporate, very corporation, very much, we know we're destroying the environment. We know that oil is bad. We know that war is bad. We know all these things are bad, but we're profiting off of it. And we realize that we may even get caught up in this thing, but that's okay, because right now we're really successful. We're doing so well. Oh, damn, the thing did happen that we thought was going to happen. Bummer, because that guy ends up it's so just matter-of-factly, and then he jumps off a cliff. Just like, whoa.
That's also dreams for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like literally I've had dreams like that have like had no, I'm like, wow, okay, why?
Yeah.
Is it okay? But had no feelings attached to it. Just been like, oh, they just exited.
It was so matter of factly, like me jumping off of this cliff to my death at the end of all of these things was just part of the normal process that would happen with what was going on.
Right. That vignette was so short too. I felt like that one, and the first one also. Those are very short ones because it kind of like, and this is the only time where I felt like the story was like almost canon, because the next vignette is the weeping demon, right? And we're still in this like apocryphal hellscape, like nuclear fallout. But what changes in the dynamic of the second one is that in the seventh one is called the weeping demon. And we come across this kind of like hybrid, right? That's like he's like a oni, but he's like a one-horned oni, like human mutation. And we kind of get the understanding that there's like a bunch of like mutant that were mutated from the nuclear fallout. And this is very specific, like feels like press temperature, like we're taking our heartbeat here, that this is definitely nuclear disaster concerns over the environment, what we've done to our world.
And class structure.
And
It
class structure.
seemed very much pointed at class structure.
Well, talking about like them eating each other.
Right. I only have one horn. The 2 horn and the 3 horns are going to eat me if they find me. I'm
But
like, what?
also in this, like one of the most beautiful sets, I thought, next to the wheat field, I thought was one of the most beautiful sets because it had those spectacular dandelions that were like these gigantic, and then those pools of blood. And like I remember we were watching it and I was like, and like this is like Jikoku, which is like kind of like a Japanese hell is like, it's like kind of a like a way station, and like a like a purgatory.
Okay.
Kind of like a purgatory, right? And it's like you have this one judgment person called Enma and whatnot. The fears that we have of like when we're like we've like our religious selves, we worry, we start to like, as we get to be like older in our lives, we start to worry about like death, and like we worry about the like what happens to our soul afterwards, and like the consumption of ourselves and the class structure, like what we're leaving behind, what's our legacy, those kinds of things, I feel like, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that it took me a little while to remember that vignette. For some reason, that one didn't stick with me as much as the others.
It wasn't as poignant in this one. I feel like this, of all the stories, this one was way more visually like artistic than it was metaphorical, like slap down. It was just, we were just kind of watching this really cool like makeup effects and like lighting, a lot of cool tokusatsu action happening with like the like red and the red water and like the like different like kind of zombie-esque like onis eating each other. Really, really cool. But it was just like I feel like it was like, it kind of give us it kind of feels like that those tumultuous moments of adulthood, like at the end of, like at our age, right? Like we're still trying to find that like we're not old, but we're also not young, and like we don't want to be taken up by the mass machine of like what the expectations, or like letting that fall down upon us versus, what we're trying to creatively pursue. Maybe I'm reaching too much.
No, I don't think so. I mean, that was, even though I was saying that one, I didn't remember that one nearly as well. I do remember sitting there watching that vignette and thinking, this is very much about culture, society, corporations. We're eating each other. We're worried about our position and our status. We don't want to be found out by the others. We just want to be able to go about and do our thing and disappear and hope that they don't eat us, and we're going to fear for this other class of folks. And that very much felt like the very deep capitalistic rut that we are currently in right now. And I think early 90s, coming out of the 80s and the Reagan eras, and just there was this very weird, gluttonous, expressive selfishness, at least in America. I don't know about Japan.
Well, this was after like that pop of the economic pop happened. Like
right.
They had like that boom, and then it dropped out from underneath them.
Did that happen in Japan?
Oh, it was brutal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're in definitely in the United States at that time in 1990, if I'm remembering right. We're in the Herbert Walker Bush time, so we're like post Reagan, but we're really still riding on whatever the crazy economic stuff was, and like we were in turmoil. We were really trying to figure out who we were now going into this next decade, and what does that mean in the corporate structure of surviving in retirement and health and just whatever. And you just hoped you weren't eaten by the next group up.
Right.
Yeah.
But
it's a good thing things have changed, Gretchen.
Yeah. But I think that's probably why this ends on the note that it ends on.
Yeah.
When we go into the village of the watermills.
Yes, watermills.
I remember when we were watching this, the first thing you and I were both like, wow, the water wheels are lit crazy.
Yeah, they had really weird lights on them in certain spots, and I don't know.
I
why
still can't
that
figure
is.
that out.
Really
I looked
weird
it up.
Purpley blue lights
I don't know.
hitting in odd spots.
It was just a choice, but
Yeah.
it was weird. But this was such a beautiful, this is a beautiful ending to a dream, right? I can't remember what he says about like the beginning, what dream this was, but I just know that was, of course, it was another dream. I think it was like, and my last dream or something like that, or I had another dream. This is not finality, but this is kind of the exploration of finality, right? I feel like this is he has this conversation with an old man in this village, and this village has isolated itself. It's and not to mention the fact that Japan is like an isolationist country in general, but like they are, this is like they have isolated themselves from technology, and this is still the artist exploring, like still looks like the artist that's walked from the Van Gogh painting. So for me,
it's
it
the
was
same
like
eye character,
the same kind of like that same kind of vibe that he's like still like, oh, finding myself, but like he has survived an apocalypse. He has survived like a purgatory stance, but has survived being eaten, never got eaten. He never allowed himself to be eaten. And now he is in this village. And I kept feeling like the first time I saw this, I was like, yeah, something terrible is going to happen. Like, right? Like there was just this moment. And then where he has this conversation with this village leader or village elder. And it's a very just talking about life and the removal of like simplifying things. And I feel like that comes to at our age, right? Like we get to that point where we're like, oh, like I don't have to compete anymore.
Right.
I need to sit back and just like do the things that make me happy and enjoy my existence.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where like it feels like whether it was intentional or unintentional, whether it's Akira Kurosawa's actual beliefs or if it's our thoughts on his beliefs, that he is that he has come to terms with himself. That he's like, I'm happy with where I've come. And how that resonates, because there's this scene where the town there's a funeral happening for there's a lady who had passed away.
Right.
And they are, instead of being very somber, which most Japanese funerals are very somber, very like everybody's black and like the kimonos are worn different directions for the dead and like it's a very somber affair. But this was like a celebration and they were singing like festival songs. And I was talking to you about, I was like, this song is not like, this is not a normal, and I had to think about it for a minute and I actually looked it up and it was like a fisherman song. It was like kind of a celebration, like a
Is it like a bounty, like a celebration of
like
the bounty?
It's a song that's for like what's the name of that holiday? Oban, like a festival dance. Like it's a dance song, and they're just like celebrating her life.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can only all hope that that's what happens at the end of our lives, that our friends and family and everyone that we know and impacted look back on our lives and celebrate who we were as people.
Right.
And I think that's a beautiful, beautiful end to this tale, this sojourn of this character and of Akira Kurosawa's career. Don't you?
Well, and there's kind of two moments in there, at least for me, because we do have that. And it's really great with the old man, because before he joins the funeral procession, asks about the woman, and he's telling her about her, and she's passed away, and they're having this kind of joyous celebration of her life. And the old man had said, I tried to date her, but she rejected me. And instead of being resentful or hurtful or anything like that, it was like, no, it's, they weren't a couple. They didn't become a thing, whatever. There was no resentment or anger or anything. He was part of the celebration of this person's joy. So there was that aspect of it. But there's a moment where a group of kids come across a bridge, and as they pass a stone, they all are putting little bundles of flowers down on this rock.
Mm-hmm.
And I asks about that. They said, well, that was where a stranger who had come to town once, and they died there. And now, as a memorial to that person, just to be honorable and respectful to that, this is in memory of them. And so people, as they pass by, they always leave something, a token for them. And, they were leaving little bouquets of flowers. And as I leaves, he walks by the stone, starts across the bridge, and then stops, and then goes and picks some flowers and then sets them on there. So it's, I took that in, that hope or that idea, that possibility that some people want legacy. They want their name on a building or a park or whatever. But the fact that this village did it for someone who had been a stranger as a token and a memorial to this person's existence, even if they knew nothing about their entire existence. Everybody counts, and they did it. And the fact that I turned around and did that, it wasn't about us leaving some form of a memorial to Kurosawa and his existence. It was him leaving something for us to remember him by.
Sure.
That's how I took that. And I loved it.
Yeah.
He made his art, he made these things, and he's like, here is this thing to remember, and it's in honor of this other life, and it's a thing that I made. This is what I left behind. And so, yeah, it was magnificent.
It was beautiful. I'm glad you loved it. I love this movie.
It's wonderful. And I'll tell you, there's so many, there have been a variety of movies. I think I'm willing to say this, even though it might get me in hot water with other folks. This is the film that Uncle Boon Me and The Fall wanted to be. It just is.
Right.
It took risks. It explored themes. It didn't try to explain them to you. No matter how weird or disconnected anything might feel in all of this, it was a very beautiful outward expression of art and emotion from somebody. And this has repeatable viewing.
Oh,
Like, I would love to go back and watch this movie again.
I'd say it's a repeatable viewing for sure. I wouldn't say that I get a different message from it every time, because I don't feel like it's that kind of movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that I notice small details that I like, scene wise, or scenery or backdrop, or art or things like that wise, that I re-see. It is not heavy handed. There is no overly aggressive storytelling that's forceful down my throat. I really appreciate that, because I can take from it what I may like, but I also appreciate that there is just enough structure that I can see that there's a point like that. And having the research that I did do about it, reading that this was kind of a beginning to a surgeon of a man's life, that being, I was like, oh, okay. That gives me a structure to talk about, right? So, yeah.
This is, I made a dig at a couple of films, and I'm just going to say this too. Do you know who Matthew Barney is? No. Matthew Barney is an experimental filmmaker. He was the partner of Bjork for a long time, and he made a series of experimental films, the Cremaster series.
This is the guy that does the Rube Goldberg thing. Is that what we're talking about?
No, he doesn't do Rube Goldberg stuff. He just makes really bad, strange, I shouldn't say bad, but he makes very strange, esoteric films that kind of mean nothing, and writes up entire primers that you have to go through, because it's like, what does this even mean? Oh, a person put a bunch of grapes in a cup and dumped them out across their foot, and that represents the stage of mitosis that a person, or meiosis, that someone's testes are going through, and it's like, dear Lord, Matthew Barney. But that guy had to make 6 films with primers, and it's just like, Dreams did it in one. I mean, that's just the beauty of Kurosawa, as far as I'm concerned. It's not pretentious. I don't think it's trying to be anything. I think it's just someone who just expresses it. It comes out, and it's just what it came.
I don't feel like
came out.
anything that feels pretentious in this at
Yeah.
all. Like that's the one thing I could say about Akira Kurosawa's films at all. They never feel like. That's why I was hard pressed when someone had described this as a vanity project, and I was like, "How dare you?" Because this doesn't feel just because the character is a kind of a like slightly biopic, but like only because it's personal. Not because it's vanity. This doesn't feel because he doesn't overly like grandiorize himself at all. Like I think this is just beautiful filmmaking, thoughtful. He's got a lot of friends and people that love him, and he loves what he does.
Yeah. This was a wonderful film, and I'm glad that you had me watch it. I cannot believe, as a Kurosawa fan, this is a film that I hadn't seen yet. So thank you for doing this.
My pleasure.
So, and because you did that, we decided to do a Kurosawa doubleheader because there was one that I wanted to watch, which you hadn't before.
I know. And I don't count myself as a fan because I'm like, I don't think I have seen enough of his films to count myself as a fan.
Oh, man. And
I've only seen like 5 or 6 of his films.
I'm that geek that when they do Seven Samurai at the Hollywood Theater in 35 millimeter, like I buy up my ticket as soon as possible. I've seen that thing probably 2 or 3 different times on the big screen.
Right?
Yeah. And same with Yojimbo. I've seen that one on the big screen there, as well as watch them at home.
Hidden Fortress.
I've never seen Hidden Fortress on the big screen. I've never seen Throne of Blood on the big screen. I have seen Rashomon on the big screen.
Yes.
That one, I think that's about it. This next one, next episode, I have not seen it on the big screen either. It is my pick. And we're going to watch the 1985 samurai epic. This is literally my favorite of his films, Ran.
It's considered a masterpiece.
It is an absolute masterpiece. I consider this to be, like, if a film can be flawless, this is the one.
This is considered his magnum opus, honestly. Yeah. Of all films. And quite honestly, I'm so glad I watched it because I've only seen vignettes of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so spectacular, and I'm excited to get into it with you.
All right.
Sweet. Well, so for everyone else, this was the Check the Gate podcast. And if you know that we don't have a Patreon, we are only going by views, people sharing us, liking us, and having conversations with us. Please comment in the comment section if you find this on Instagram or on YouTube. If you're downloading this on all the podcast areas, please just interact with us. We're doing this because we love what we're doing and because I really love hanging out with Gretchen and talking about movies.
Yeah.
And so we want you to do the same thing with us. So make sure that you check everything out, like and subscribe to the stuff and the things that we are. And until next time, Gretchen, thank you so much.
Thanks.